A big win is bound to give just about anybody an ego boost. If we were to do the impossible and win a fight we'd never thought we'd win, we'd be over the moon. And that's precisely what happened when Jake Paul defeated the MMA legend Anderson Silva. After his big win, Paul goaded Dana White to come out of hiding and confront him face to face. Let's look at all he had to say. For starters, did Jake Paul goad Dana White? We all feel a sudden urge to take a bold stand against our bullies and tell them enough is enough, but only a few of us act on this urge. Standing up to those more powerful than us is a terrifying prospect, and it becomes all the scarier when the person standing before us has a net worth of $500 million and owns the UFC. Except not for Jake Paul, because this man didn't hold back when he challenged Dana White to come out of hiding and confront him. But to be fair, he'd just gotten done beating Anderson Silva, one of the greatest boxers in UFA history. Now that is bound to give just about anyone a kick of confidence. Come on guys, there's a reason why Silva is known as the striker. His record was pretty much unmatched, but our favorite problem child has been looking for trouble when he decided to enter the ring with the striker. Turns out sometimes when we go asking for trouble, things work out in our favor, but we're unsure if the problem child's troublemaking tendencies will work with this business tycoon. Up next, what exactly did Jake have to say? When you're standing in the Gila River Arena amidst a large bustling crowd, and after having just done the undoable, there's a lot you can say. But Paul took the exact moment to talk about White instead. This man is a strategic genius. He wouldn't have spoken about Dana or let the limelight sway away from his victory if there was no good reason. It seemed as if Jake had been looking for the right time to bring this up, and the opportunity presented itself after his Arizona win. He fired shot after shot as he took down every person against him. At the top of that list was, of course, Dana White. Paul provoked White to come out of hiding and talk to him face to face. He didn't appreciate the behind-the-scenes tricks White had been playing to sabotage Jake's career. He believes that White hates him and is all geared to hinder his success in any way possible. Of course, it's hard to confirm how much of this is factual and how much of it is a conspiracy theory that Jake came up with. But to be fair, White does have all the reasons in the world to hate Jake. Moving on, does Dana White hate Jake Paul again? For context, let's get into potential reasons for their mutual dislike of one another. Of course, we're completely ignoring the fact that it could also just be because Jake is a self-proclaimed troublemaker with little to no tolerance for authority, and well, for someone in a position of authority, this may come off as a little disrespectful. But one could also argue that Paul is a revolutionary who wants to challenge the norms of the arena and bring about change. Hierarchies are a little out of date, guys. It's 2022, but not for businessmen and MMA experts like White, who have spent their whole lives following a book of conduct and plan on keeping the tradition alive for as long as they live. For someone like him, Jake poses an obvious threat. He's not only extremely opposed to all things conventional, but he also has a penchant for exposing the dirty, dark secrets of the UFC world. Jake wants to start a fighters association. It's an interesting pitch, somewhat like a workers' union, in which fighters collectively unite forces to demand better wages, better healthcare, and more respect. Phew, kudos to Paul for that one. But can you all see why this would immediately make the bourgeoisie feel a little threatened? Following up, who else did Paul attack? With an undefeated streak of 6-0, Paul has enough fire cannon, as many shots as he wants, and anybody who has pissed him off. And that's exactly what his approach was after his latest win. Dana was not the only person to come under fire. Jake also called out Nate Diaz and Alvarez. In fact, with Diaz, he got a little more intense and proceeded to call him a Sheesh, it must take some gall to call someone a curse word this loudly and boldly, but then again, we don't know how trash talk works. He might just be doing it right. After Diaz, Alvarez came under fire and Paul decided to challenge him to a duel. Looks like this victory has gotten to his head, maybe rightfully so, because Paul did make a valid point when he said Alvarez hasn't beaten the striker and probably can't. Looks like Paul isn't afraid of coming face to face with anyone. But will Alvarez take the bait? Only time will tell. Let's look at other incidents which triggered Jake. Jake claims to be angry at Dana because Dana is trying to sabotage his career, but perhaps it's not only Jake's desire to bring about positive change that has put him on the hit list of the UFC icon. There have been incidents in the past that have contributed to the hostile attitude that Dana has showed toward Jake. Let's jog your memories a bit. Do you remember UFC 261 back in 2021, when Jake Paul decided to live up to his bad boy rep and misbehave with quite literally everyone? The list list included the fans, the spectators, and even the commentator. He almost had an altercation with Daniel Cormier, and goodness, it was intense. Imagine misbehaving so much that all the fans feel the need to chant F Jake. It was this incident that led to him becoming an outcast from UFC, and all of this makes us wonder, how much do we even blame White for banning him? If someone were to come into our home and disrespect us, we wouldn't want them there either, now would we? Coming up, Dana White's son can be racist. Okay, so White banned Jake from UFC events. That's one thing, but criticizing and disrespecting him by being racist? We don't know how to feel about that one. But we also don't know to what extent Paul's claims are true. According to Jake, he tried to get into UFC events, but the guards wouldn't let him enter. He was practically thrown out. And that's got to be a hit to this man's pride. But that was not all. His pride was wounded time and time again at the hands of the Whites. If Paul was to believe, Dana White's son met him when he was clearly under the influence of some intoxicant. Or maybe not. Some people are just that hyper, you know? And he made his feelings for Jake very clear. He not only told Jake how much he hated him, but also ended up being abusive and racist. Sheesh, it looks like someone is very attached to their father and takes the constant jabs Paul takes at White to heart. We don't blame him. Who would put up with someone disrespecting their father so publicly? But come on, Mr. White Jr., racism isn't the answer here. When has it ever been? Moving on, Jake's refusal to give up. The problem child is known as the problem child for a reason, and this became clear to us when Jake talked about how he didn't like being told what to do and what not to do. The ban from the UFC was a clear sign that he was unwelcome in that space. Come on, Jake, take a hint when it's there in your face. But Paul refused to let this stop him. When he realized what was happening, he looked for ways to get in. Funnily enough, one of his plans was to get into a fat suit and sneak in, disguised as someone else. He even believed that he could get a selfie with Dana this way. Darn, this man has some imagination. We don't know how effective this was, but hey, we can give points for creativity. Lastly, the bromance between Logan and Dana. Oh, for this, we need an entirely new video. But what a lot of us find odd is that even though there is little to no love between Dana and Jake, Dana seems to be bro bonding with Jake's brother. That's interesting. Dana was also on Logan's podcast and decided to give him an upgrade on UFC. We wonder how he's not letting his feud with Jake spill over into his dynamic with Logan. Or perhaps he's playing divide and rule. Who knows? We can only wait and find out. On that note, it's a wrap for today. What do you think about the ongoing feud between Jake and Dana? Let us know in the comments below. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel for more. See you next time.